heart to this heart don't desire. Well, I'm a man on fire.
All right, welcome to the Slackline for our second episode. Hello, with our host Jay Wow.
Wow.
And the boss.
The boss is coming.
That's a made-up dumb fairy tale name. You.
So loud. Oh man, that's
All right.
great! Wow.
Thank you.
Second episode, we made it.
Yeah, we made it. Thank you for everybody who is joining. It's probably like six people, maybe
yeah,
max.
Our
half a dozen.
sponsors from last week, Warner Brothers, that provide us the hot dogs.
Yeah, they didn't bring the hot dogs this week. Although I think we have a couple left over.
Well, thank you very much for them.
Yeah.
Right.
So what we're gonna start with is what we're gonna call the mic test, where we're gonna recap our thoughts from last week, see if maybe our levels were off, or if our levels were good. Maybe our opinion is toast. We will find out as soon as
3. Toast. Toast.
all right. That's the mic test.
What we should do after that? I have no idea.
Well, now we go into to the recap of last week. So Joao, you've had a week to sleep on your thoughts on feminism and white people's role going forward in the world. What do you think about that stuff today?
Well, I think we talked about it last week, and actually we had a pretty good discussion this week as well as we were preparing for the show. I still think that we have to evolve a lot as Caucasian man to keep it up with what there's being thought and said by the minorities, you know. And there was something that I said last week, kind of upset at you, that I told a friend of mine has said to me that it's not about you anymore.
That's not what upset me.
What did upset you then?
What upset me is the idea that while we Caucasian men have had our opinion be the opinion or whatever for so long, that it's time to like step aside and let other people have a voice. And I agree with that, but at the same time, excluding white people, current white people, young white people from that discussion is not progress in that regard, like in my opinion, because those people that have been making the decisions for 50 years or whatever, 100 years, those people don't represent my values any more than yours. And so I shouldn't be associated with those people, and to be associated with them just because I'm white is exactly the same thing as we're talking about. Like, you're going to need opinions from all sides. If you exclude people, regardless of their previous power, if you exclude people completely from discussions, then you're inevitably building a reaction to that's going to be, hey, why aren't we involved in this discussion?
I disagree with you in parts, and this week I throw a bait to you which you didn't catch it, but now that we are at the program, I would like to say it again. It's as if you have never tried peanuts in your life, you know.
The peanut thing.
The peanut thing, you know. And how can you have an opinion about it? Of course, you can have read about it, or you can have research about it, but you would never actually taste the taste of peanuts, you know. For me, that's kind of what I can see that can resemble to us when we talk like male, when we talk about feminism, because we don't know what it is to be in a woman's skin in the 21st century.
Yeah, I agree, but that doesn't mean that the decisions that are made on a feminist issue, like, my point is that there's no strictly feminist issues. There's no strictly black issues, white issues, whatever. We're all living, especially where we are in Canada or in North America. It's a cultural melting pot of people. We're all trying to live together, and so you have to include everybody in every discussion.
That's a great speech. I like it and I agree with you. However, we didn't get to this point. The minorities didn't get their voice heard because some guy, a white man said, "Oh, okay. What if we give more power to women, or what if we give more power to black people?" These people actually, through their thoughts and through their rights and through their fights, they fought their way into civil rights, and today they are fighting again to have the same opportunities that than we all do. What I'm saying is that, yes, of course, it is a matter that affects all the society, but we are not discussing, we are not at this point right now, if it wasn't for their own efforts. We can actually talk more about this in the next programs.
Yeah, the next program. And, I recognize that our program, it caught the attention of a few people over the last week or so, and we had a couple people call in, and so we had a pretty good discussion off air with these people. We did end up recording it, and so we do have one guy who we've brought back today for a new segment that we are calling Memoirs of a Mustache.
Do you want the mustache on or off?
Off, please.
Too bad.
Okay, and on the line we have Bernie from Texas. How you doing today, Bernie? What did you have to say about our cast last week?
Oh, cowboy, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, thanks.
All right, I think you guys. I don't know how I end up listening to these bullshit. I guess my daughter liked this kind of thing, and she was listening to her bedroom, I guess. And I told her, "What is this amount of crap there that you're talking about?" And I just wanted to call and talk a little bit about what's going on in America and in the world, and why is everything so screwed up, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, I think we can definitely agree on that there, Bernie. So you're from Texas, and yeah, like you said, there's a lot going on in the U.S. right now. What do you have to say about
you have no idea what's going on in the U.S. now, because you guys are here and you're protected by Canada's laws and Canada's stuff, and I don't know where Canada people stands in that stuff. But right now, we have a very big problem. You know what I mean? We have the nuke problem. We have Korea, and we have Iran, and we have Japan, and all those.
Well, let's just clarify. You're meaning South Korea, or sorry, North Korea, not South Korea.
I mean Korea, you know.
And Japan is an ally of the good countries of the world.
I don't know which Korea it is. I think, you know what I think? I think they're a country that divides itself north and south. It's just the same countries, like the United States. We are not dividing the United States of the north and the United States of the south, you know what I mean? So what I think is that our president should just get a big nuke and just send a big nuke into the Korea and just destroy the whole fucking thing. Because if the North Koreans they escape to the south, you know what's going to happen? South is going to become north, and north is going to become south. You know what I mean? So that's what we have to explode all these fucking island there.
Well, Bernie, I don't think we can really condone the complete nuclear annihilation of an entire nation. I mean, yes, there's like the Kim Jong-un and there's bad people there, but there's a lot of innocent people. You're talking about millions of innocent people.
You listen to me, boy. You talk a very complicated thing here. There's good people and there's bad people. There's America and there's the rest of the world. There's people that like America and there's people that are just bad that they don't like America. So
you say anybody that doesn't like America is bad?
Are you saying that you don't like America?
We can agree to disagree on certain parts of.
Not disagree or agree. It's just you like it. Either you like it or you don't like it. And you know what? I think in America is also divided by people that like Trump and don't like Trump. And the people that like Trump are the real supporters and they're the real Americans. And people that don't like Trump, they just should be put inside of the fucking nuke and sent to the Korea and all. It's good.
Well, that doesn't sound very American, Bernie. I mean, America is built on people, on democracy and people, talking with each other. And
actually, America was not built on that. America was built on cowboys that went to the extreme west and just got the land and the gold. And these people that you're talking about, those are the pussy that are destroying America now. So you should think over. And before you call yourself are you American?
Yes, I am. I am part American.
Part American?
I was born there. Yeah.
Why you say you're part American if you were born in America? That doesn't make sense.
Well, because I'm also Canadian.
How can you be both? You see, that's what is fucking wrong with this country here. How can you be both? You cannot be both. Are you an immigrant then? You should be sent home. Where's home?
Technically, Slovakia.
Dear Lord, you're very confusing, boy. But that's what I want to talk about. You know, we just should like.
I think Bernie, I think we've really heard enough from you today. I'm not sure that you're the type of person we really should be having on our program. I think we should really just be just cutting
What
this
you
off right
just
about
said
now.
is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, that was. I apologize to any of our listeners that were offended by that. That was Bernie from Texas with mustache memoirs of a mustache. I don't think we're gonna end up having him back. We'll try to screen our calls a little bit better from now on.
Wow, man,
Yeah,
this guy's crazy.
yeah. I don't know what's man. There's a lot of divisiveness going around, you know.
Yeah, you see, that's why I think it's nice to have this program here. We can actually discuss something without being so polarized, you know.
It's true. I mean, we might disagree, but I don't want to send a nuke across the table to you sometimes.
Well, the nukes, maybe North Korea has the range power to do that, so.
Yeah, well, they'll reach us before they reach Trump in Washington.
Listen, so who are we having here today, Matt?
We have Xandria coming in. What time is it? It's 10 to 1, so she should be here pretty quick. And we're gonna talk a little bit with her about what she's got going on. She is a model and filmmaker and a bunch of other things. Let her talk about it. and then we're gonna get into a really fun topic that could lead to some shouting, and that is the dreaded friend zone.
The friend zone.
At the request of Xandria.
Okay, great. I think it's a nice topic to begin the day.
Yeah, so we're just gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, Xandria should be in the house.
I'm gonna call you out, 'cause you ain't what you claim to be. Say you're a working man, but you ain't got no grit, you got no glory. What kind of man are you? Say you're noble, but you're just a goddamn fool. Go on, yeah, go, you know, yeah, you better run, or you're staring down the barrel of my shotgun. Yeah, my shotgun.
All right. We are back on the Slack line with JWoww
Wow.
and the boss.
The boss is coming.
That's a made-up dumb fairy tale name, you
Wow, and now with Xandria.
we have Xandria in the house.
Yay.
Hello.
Xandria Thomison here. That's the right way to pronounce that, right?
It's not actually. You
It's
pronounce the X, so it's Xandria.
That's what I said.
No,
I meant your last
Boris
name.
just
Yeah, but you said
Thomison?
Xandria.
No, I didn't.
Joao said Xandria.
Xandria?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Xandria. I always said Xandria.
I'm presuming it's short for Alexandria.
It is absolutely not at all.
No?
Not even close, and I hate it when people call me that.
Oh,
Thank you.
interesting.
It's but where's your name come from? Like, it's
Oh, okay. This is actually kind of a fun story. So, my dad was absolutely certain that my brother was going to be a girl because he had dreams about it. and they were gonna call her Amanda because that was my grandma's name. And he was so certain that they didn't even bother thinking of other names. And then when my brother was born, they were like, "Oh crap! Now we need a name." And my older brother, his name is Harvey Xavier, so that he could go by Harvey X because my dad really liked Malcolm X at the time. So now they needed a name, so they're just like, well, let's just steal Harvey's middle name. So they named Xavier. And then when I was born, they're like, I guess we need another X name. And then they just like pulled Xandria out of their ass.
Wow.
So
well,
it's
it turns out
special
Inspirational
meaning.
story, yeah.
yeah, I thought it was more like a emperor's daughter of somewhere. It's a nice name though.
Thank
Suits you.
Thanks.
Has a lot of character.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Forgot to mention that was Crooked Spies taking us in from the break again. That was Shotgun from their second album, Shotgun. Shout out to the boys in Calgary for lending us their tunes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
They're good tunes, so
Oh,
we
they're
don't.
from Calgary?
Yeah, so we don't have to try to get sued.
Not for that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of, Sony distributors and whatnot listening. Like, oh, you can't use our music. So
Yeah. Anyways, for those
that's my brother's band, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. I thought it was like some kind of legit old-timey rock song because I don't listen to
Well,
rock.
it is legit.
No, but I mean like...
I'm
you
just
know what I
like,
mean?
I know.
Like something
I
like
know.
you turn on the radio and it's like, oh, like on Jack FM.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
That's
it's
very good.
yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good. Crooked Spies. Check them out on iTunes.
I will.
All right. Just a couple things before we get going into Xandria's topic of the day, which is a very active one. Should be fun. Couple things, food for thoughts for today. Number one is this day in history. This day in history, Nirvana's Nevermind was released.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 1990. I wrote it down here. Oh no, I didn't.
Oh,
It's
never mind.
91.
Never mind.
1991 or 92.
It was a year in the 90s.
Yeah, it was in the 90s. And 30 million copies.
Wow.
Yeah, over
Nice.
30 million copies worldwide. And started a movement in grunge that permeates music to this day. So
Nice, man.
thanks for that, Nirvana. Pretty sweet. And a fun quote of the day for everybody. See what we can get out of it. Thomas Edison. Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work.
Okay.
An interesting quote is something I think we talk about a lot in our line of work in the film and entertainment business, because a lot of it is just show up.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to show up and work, and people are impressed by that because there's a large portion of the population that just is not interested in doing those things. It's weird. It's
Yeah.
really weird.
It's very much like, oh, well, things should just come to me. I shouldn't go out and get them myself.
Right. And then people find out pretty quick that doesn't work, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking if Thomas Edison was wearing any overalls when he invented the light bulb.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he had a lot of help, probably from some people that he wasn't paying very well.
Or at all.
Or at all. What year is that quote from? 1847? Or no, that's when he was born. So, yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. I don't know where he lived. All right. So that's a little bit of some history and fun facts for the day.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for your
problem.
thoughts.
Very
No
interesting.
problem. Let's see if I have a little.
Move this man!
I don't know. Something to play after. I don't know. I have all these funny little things that I put together, and
Some sound
I'm
effects.
trying to find out where to use them. I don't know if I can get sued for these. They're just like they're little movie clips and stuff.
You probably
really?
can.
Probably, but I don't care
People
anymore.
sue people all the
I was
time
thinking
for
about it today walking around. I was like, I should just be playing like any music. Like nobody fucking cares.
Well, wouldn't they just like mute you or something? I don't think
No,
they'd
I just
sue
get
you.
like a cease and desist letter, be
Oh.
like, stop using our music, and then
Okay,
I
don't
just
do
like
that
would,
again.
yeah,
And then you just don't.
yeah. It's not like I'm making any money for them to sue me for,
That's
so
true.
Anyway, just to give you a context here, last week was our first show. We had Paulina here, which is she's a writer and a script writer, and we were talking about. She was enlightening us actually with some thoughts about feminism. So yeah, if you wanna hear it after this our first podcast, but that's not why we brought you here today.
Cool.
We're talking about today the friend zone.
Hey, yeah, so funny.
Which is actually came really handy today because I just got a date with this chick today, and yes, and then she canceled for the second time.
Yeah, she probably is not into it. No,
Well,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
and I'm thinking about is that the friend zone
Okay.
already?
You know what?
I'm very aroused.
I actually okay. The reason why I want to talk about this is because I have so many guy friends asking me. They're like, Xandria, like, oh, there's this girl I like, but like she friend zoned me. How do I get out of the friend zone? And I was like, okay, first of all, let's call the friend zone what it actually is, which is either. Well, okay, no, let's talk about what it is. So either you like someone, guy or girl, whatever. They're not interested in you back, except for platonically, whereas you're interested in them sexually or romantically, right? Okay, sucks. Or B, you're hanging out with someone, either sexually or romantically, and they change their mind and decide that they want it to be platonic. Either way you look at it, what the friend zone really is rejection, right? That's what it is. It's rejection, and saying friend zone is a nice padded way of making yourself feel better about it, right? Like, nobody likes being fucking rejected at all. But to say the friend zone, like, oh, they friend zone me. No, they're just not fucking interested in you like that. And it sucks. It totally sucks.
It does suck. I agree with that. I would say though, is it hard to like verbalize the rejection? Like, how hard is it to be like, hey, not feeling it?
That's the thing too, though, is that I think it comes from a lot of misunderstanding of what each other wants. So let's say I'm hanging out with a dude and they're interested in me as more than friends, and I don't pick up on that. How the fuck am I supposed to tell them? You know what I mean? Because like the way I approach people is like, okay, so when you have a crush on someone, what do? You're nice to them, right? When you like someone as a friend, what do? You're nice to them, right? So unless you're actively being like pursuing them in a very obvious way, which most of the times just takes going up and being like, listen, I'm interested in you. Would you like to date me or fuck me, or you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just like,
Well, we heard that those comments were no good last week, though.
oh no, but I mean, like, not as direct as I'm saying.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
It depends. It
Well,
depends.
that's a different
honestly,
conversation.
but honestly, I do
well,
that.
not really, but
I totally do that. But it depends on comfort level,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
like how respectful you are with someone. So if I know I'm like cool with someone and like they're being cool with me and I'm being myself and I'm just like, hey, you want to fuck? Like, I know that that's gonna be okay because I'm joking about it and I'm not like being harassy and shit. And if they're like, whoa, that's really inappropriate, then I'm like, oh, my bad, sorry, I thought we were on that level.
said no guy ever.
Yes.
Xandria comes up. I want to fuck.
Oh,
Wow, that is very
yes,
inappropriate.
I'm sorry. I'm not
Excuse
down
me.
for it. Yes. I think you just went way over the line here, and you better just excuse me. Just go away.
I would
If
appreciate
it
if
were to
you
happen.
if you leave
if
my
you
house
left
right
if
now.
you left my site.
Yes. Unless the guy was married or something, and
Yeah,
even there.
No, but
Anyways,
then that's not nice.
But you know what? It's nice that you brought that up because I think my first actual girlfriend, the first girl that I was involved was actually back when I was 28. Now I'm 29. No, no, back when I was
Kind of a big deal.
We were sexually involved, and why not? But then after a while, she lost the interest in being sexually with me. So there was one night we were hanging out, and she just said no. And of course there was a rejection. It was really frustrating. But I remember now. It's good that you brought that up because I remember there were two ways of coming up with that. Either I would just tell her to okay, fuck off, I don't want to be friends, and just like go about with my life, or and I really liked her, we would become friends. Now today she's my best friend.
Oh,
Yeah, and
That's interesting.
I mean she had a lot of boyfriends, and
Yeah.
now she's actually dating women, and we were always close after that. And I mean,
that's
and
good.
never a single more of a sexual tension between us. You know,
Yeah.
we even like would go and swim naked in the river, or why not? And I had a lot of
I'm
girlfriends.
very
that were-
aroused.
How many times can we use that? This
A
time?
lot, probably.
Especially when I'm going about, because I mumble a lot. Anyways,
Yeah.
for me, it was a good friend zone.
Yeah.
There.
Well, but I mean, friend zone, it's just like you mutually respected each other, right? So like if you don't really have that level of respect for someone and you really just want to fuck, and at the end of the day they're like, yeah, listen, I don't want to fuck anymore, but you don't really respect them and you don't really particularly like them, there's no reason to try and be friends with them after anyway. You know what I mean? So
Well, but
Yeah, well, like and respect are different things. I
Yeah,
mean, you can
true.
totally respect somebody and, I mean,
not really like them.
well, and not really want to be around them anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
That's true.
a one-night stand situation is not necessarily a disrespectful
No,
situation.
not at all.
I mean, as long
No.
as both people are
But I mean, I think that means that
consenting.
you like the person, not like in the sense that like, oh, I like you and I want to hang out with you, but it's like, oh, you're an okay person and you know, whatever, this was a fun
Yeah.
one-time thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in regards to the friend zone thing, I think there's just like different iterations of it that the worst one gets really like examined or exposed by men in particular, as far as like some sort of like malicious intent
Yeah.
thing from a woman, which like I think that is not always the case, or like
No.
very rarely the case, but I do
Yeah.
think that it is sometimes.
I think
I've
that,
been the
yeah.
victim of that. But like yeah,
boy.
well no, I think we all have. I think everybody has, from and like in if you've dated people for long enough, you know,
Yeah.
into your like late 20s, early 30s, you probably had a few, you know, experiences that are not great. But yeah, and so like, but I think that situation does exist. So I think to discount it is like, I mean, as like, well, that's just a guy being a pussy, which it is in a lot of the times.
I don't think that, and I don't think that's like the proper word to describe someone that's hurt. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, if you hurt someone on purpose, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the end of the day, what you have to remember, like what people have to remember in general, is that no matter how nice you are to someone, no matter how many dates you've been on, no matter how many times you fucked before, you're still not entitled to someone
Yeah.
else's body,
Oh, yeah,
period,
yeah.
right? So if someone at one point is like, listen, I don't want to be with you in that way anymore and I just want to be friends, or if they're rude about it even, like you don't, I guess like you have to kind of try and be empathetic and think about where they're coming from, and if you don't want to do that because you're too hurt, that's fine. But I think it's just like, it's a level of like maturity for the other person to be respectful about it and nice, and if they're not, then you don't fucking owe them anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can hate them.
Well, yeah, but I think that it's not necessarily just built on a sexual need, like, you know, and that the rejection is not necessarily just the hurt, right? Like, the hurt in a friend situation comes from, well, you are friends, and so you do hang out with this person, and now that they know that you feel this way about them or whatever, or don't, either way, you have to see them with other people,
Right.
which is awful. Like,
But
awful.
they're not gonna stop living their life.
No, that's
you
nobody's
know?
asking them to,
Yeah.
right? But I think that's why, I mean, something like the friend zone tends to come to a head at a certain point. Like, I had a pretty terrible situation with somebody that was like my best friend.
Yeah.
But like as I like examined it further and really thought about it, I realized that she was my best friend because I was in love with her. Like, I'm like, you're saying like, well, you do these things for somebody that is your friend because you're nice to them or whatever, or you're nice to them because they're your friend, or you're nice to them because you're attracted to them. And like in this case, it's like, well, I told her one day how I felt about her, and just telling her was like, that's all I needed to do. I didn't need the reciprocating feelings back, or even like an answer back or anything. It was just like, it's something you hold inside yourself for so long that it just becomes like, oh, thank God it's out. But then it kind of started this whole back and forth. She wasn't really sure, and like that was I think is kind of the last iteration of the friend zone, is like, you're both friends, you are attracted to each other, but there's complications involving
Yeah, I totally
other
get
people in
that.
your life or whatever, that's just like, this is not a good call.
Yeah. No,
You know?
I get that.
And that's really hurtful. And like eventually it came to the point where I sat her down. I was like, I can't be around you anymore. Like, I know we're great friends, but like we are only this way because I care this much about you. And if I want to be with other people, then I can't like.
Well, but I think what you're saying is exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Like what I was saying is that it needs to be voiced, right?
Yeah.
So
I think honesty is the biggest part of it.
Exactly. I think this whole like, I think that a lot of the times the friend zone or whatever is like a lot of people saying like, oh, well, so and so sucks because they're gonna go and I like them, but then they're dating all these shitty people and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, well, if you just fucking grow up for a second and tell that person how you feel, which is exactly what you did, yeah, it might not end well. But you can't help that. You know what I mean? Like, that's life. Like, it's better. Is it better for you to sit there and struggle and be in
No,
agony?
you'll drive yourself nuts.
Exactly. And then it's not even the other person. Like, you can't put that on the other person.
Yeah, and you end up blaming them, right? Because you get into you start being like super mad about like, oh, like they must know how I feel about them. Like I've told all of their friends, and so it must like, and they do. But like you said, like. It doesn't mean that you're gonna stop your life or whatever.
No.
But I always find it funny when those types of situations turn around, and it's like,
then
you're like, okay, this is not gonna work. You don't like me, fine. And then you start like going on, like, but we can still be friends, and like I really want to maintain like what we had. And it's like, okay. And so like I started dating this other person, and then like we just have like a conversation about it one day. And then, like, they're mad at me. Like, why would you even tell me about, like, this other person you're dating? I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like,
they just immediately are like, oh, you're trying to make me jealous. And it's like, bitch,
no,
you rejected me.
Yeah, like,
no,
what do you mean?
I get that. I think it's like, I think it has a lot to do with pride, like, in general. Like, I mean, obviously, like, dating and stuff has a lot to do with pride for people, right? So, like, it's like that fucking video that was going around. It's like, how to get out of the friend zone. The friend zone doesn't exist. It's in your mind. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. And then they're like, what you have to do is make yourself unavailable to the other person. I'm like, no, just shut up. Like, fucking, are you 12? Like, no, we're not in fucking high school. You know what you do is you go, you tell that person how you feel. If they don't feel it, that fucking sucks. If you guys want to try it, that's great. But you don't go trying to make someone jealous. You don't try. When has that ever worked? Games, like, oh, I like so-and-so. Okay, you know what you need to do? You need to act aloof. You need to date other people in front of them. Okay, no, people don't like that. Playing hard to get, I get it, but it's immature as fuck. Yeah. So if you're trying to, like, attract a mature person that you care about, that's not the right way to go around it. It might work for some people, but probably not the type of people you really want to attract.
Yeah, I was going to say, like...
How do you think that... I mean, obviously, there's a lot of... different reasons for each people, but how do you think we end up in the friend zone? Like,
I think it's lack of communication. I think that's all it is. It's like, or you could be friends, like, you could start friends with someone and then become attracted to them. Like,
that's the harder one to like really kind of break through.
Totally. And I've been in like so many of those situations, and at the end of the day, if you just communicate with the other person, that's how you get out of it, the zone that you put yourself in, because all it is putting all this pressure and all this stuff on the other person that doesn't know shit about what you're thinking. So if you get what you're thinking out there, and then they can respond how they want, and you can't control how they're going to respond, right? But then at least, you're taking responsibility for your own feelings, and like, it's not just, oh, it's the other person put me in this zone. No, bitch, like, you put yourself in there.
But but there is instances of that.
Of
there
someone
is
knowing
instances
how you
of
feel
that.
and then purposely.
Yes. Because there's assholes in every gender. Like, it's not exclusive to men or women. There's just dicks in the world, and some people are mean to other people.
Oh yeah, a lot of people are shitty. Normally those people aren't your friends, hopefully.
No, well, no, but like, I mean, that's a type of abusive relationship almost that, I mean, is no different than any other type of abusive relationship where people have
kind of
weird
like,
draws to it for whatever reason. Maybe you've known that person for a long time or whatever, and like, you just can't see past those things, and like, there's definitely shitty people in the world.
Totally. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying if you want to avoid.
Yeah, you got to. Well, I mean, the way to avoid that is the person being like, "Hey, I like you," and then being like, I mean, they have to say something about it.
Yeah.
Right. They can't keep avoiding it. Then like, oh well, they were just such good friends, and
just
then
walk away.
That's the big thing, though. Is like when you care about somebody in that way, and you expose it to them, hey, this is the way I feel about you, and they come back to it with like, I don't feel that way about you. You have to be willing to either completely let that go and like swallow your pride whenever they bring another person around or whatever, or be willing to just like cut that relationship out of your life for all intents and purposes, as sad as that is.
Yeah.
What when is the other way around? Give you an example. I had a girl, a girlfriend, not a girlfriend, but a friend that was a girl.
Yeah.
And one day we had too much to drink, and we ended up in bed.
Nice.
And then the next day, but I don't know.
The real friendship friend zone breaker.
You see,
Booze.
That's what happened because for me, I had this thing before, and it's not so complicated to me. But for her, it was so embarrassing the other day that I was feeling bad, as if I had done something bad, but it was not actually my intent. It was like, I was not like, oh, I'm going to get her drunk so he can just like, like.
Well, that's not really.
Well, I don't like. Come on, Joao. I mean, we know what you're like.
I did one thing bad in my life, but she's still my friend.
Whoa.
Wait. But
You're gonna have to elaborate on that.
It was a good
okay,
word.
I'm gonna tell this story then.
Okay.
But after this, I
Okay.
just want to say
Just
what,
let your
what when is the other way around?
ambiguity hang out.
I don't really know what you mean by the other way around because I'm
Like-
not really talking about guys and girls in particular.
Yeah.
But what you're saying,
when the friends
yeah,
become
do the humping and all that.
and then they're not friends anymore, and then this
That
girl now is
sucks,
so
dude.
weird with me like
Yeah, no,
until
you know
today.
what? I did that. I fucked a friend, and it was really bad sex. A, B. I think that they were like, it wasn't bad because of anybody. It was just like whoa, we were friends,
is
and this
weird.
was fucking
Yeah.
awkward as shit. And yeah, no, we're not friends anymore at all. So
Yeah,
that
that
you know
sucks.
what? It just sucks. That's it. It's not on you. Like you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Life
Like
moves on, man. Like,
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
if the
life
other
moves
person
on, but-
feels weird,
But
that's
there's a
on
lesson
them.
in it. There's a lesson in it.
oh
Oh,
yeah, you gotta
totally.
learn from it for
It's
sure.
like maybe
yeah.
don't fuck your friends.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my lesson.
And be honest and upfront with people from the
Yeah.
beginning, and
Yeah. Well,
these
it
things don't end
depends.
up festering. Like,
Depend on the friend though.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can have this kind of relationships.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
friends with
true.
bad
But then
That is
then
true,
that's
yeah.
not a friend. That's not a. That's
Yeah.
not a bad thing.
You always
Then you're
run the
not in a
risk.
friend zone. Then you're
Yeah.
just in a mutual relationship with
like
somebody
fuck
that
buddy
you're
type
just
deal.
like, oh yeah, we see each other once every couple weeks and it's fun. Like, yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
No.
Like, and there's nobody being taken advantage of or exploited in that situation if both people are fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I've
I
been in
mean,
those types of
yeah.
relationships for sure.
You run the risk every time you hook up, right? So like,
Yeah.
okay, let's say one night stand, right? And you're having a one night stand, and at the end of it, like, whatever, one person wants to have another one, the other person, it's just like, oh, it's fucking one night stand. You run the risk of either A, kind of being into that person and being hurt, or, hurting the other person. Like, you always run a risk no matter what you do. So if you're just going to sit there and do nothing, or you could just do these things and then deal with them appropriately after.
live your
you know?
life. And
Yeah.
Because you never know. Also, you never know when it's gonna be a one night stand or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not gonna
man.
be like maybe you're thinking there's gonna be a one night stand, and
Yeah.
other people's like, oh, okay, I really liked it. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at my buddy's wedding in August. That was a one night stand from a college bar on like the sloppiest night of the college bar nights, and like they're married and they are perfect for each other,
Yeah.
and it's great. Like, so how you meet, and some that can be not an issue, but sometimes it's tough when you end up in these sort of relationships that are just purely sexual, really, and you start to feel that way about them,
Yeah.
or vice versa, or you both do, but you don't want to deal with whatever
Yeah.
that complication is, and so it just becomes like oh man, sex is really great, but like you're just like, you're in my life too much, or like, but I like that, but I don't. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so confusing, man. Love is tough.
Feelings are
Feelings.
confusing.
Yeah.
But I think that people can be like there's another options than the options there are
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Like the bad story that I was going to tell is that I invited this friend of mine,
Yeah.
she's very pretty. I invited her to go to a nudist beach. I totally had second
That's
intentions.
creepy.
That is kind of, yeah, that's
creepy.
like, dude,
It's
like,
not,
you gotta,
it's not, no, it's not so creepy. I'm telling you why, because I mean, first of all, in a nudist beach, you cannot have anything there, right?
You're still looking at the person. I don't know.
Yeah. We were
So
totally
weird.
wasted. No, by the night, when we were in the same hotel, we start like dressing up, And I was like, fuck no, man. It's just like we were, we were naked all day. It's just try something here. And it didn't work well. She didn't want anything.
Because that's fucking creepy.
It was not so creepy. No, she she said no. And I went
because it was creepy. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, I'll let you finish.
Do you want the mustache on or off?
Off, please.
Too bad.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Mustache ride. Sorry.
Anyway, maybe too much exposure here.
No, that's okay. I mean, as long as you're learning lessons from these things.
Yeah. I learned a lesson. We were still friends until today. I never tried something creepy again.
Yeah, that's the main thing is you don't keep going at it.
A no is a no.
Yeah, that's a hard no, especially from a friend. It's like, okay, well.
But I mean, also like if you invited me to go to a nude beach with you,
I
would say no.
Yeah,
I'd be like, no, that's fucking creepy.
Yeah, man. Like, there's obvious second intentions. Like, for me, to Joao's point, to Joao's point, yeah, if I invite a girl to a nude beach and she says yes, I'm thinking that's probably a pretty good indicator that things are good.
Also, if you're friends though, maybe they're just like, oh yeah, maybe they just want to go to a nude beach.
Yeah, had you seen this person naked before? Skinny dipping, situations like that. But I really wanted to.
But wait, we were not that.
This is Brazil too, like this different type of
cultures,
culture for sure.
And the beach was beautiful. Like, it was a paradise there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't insinuate anything at the beach because first, you can't. Second,
what do you mean you can't?
Well, you can't do that on a nudist beach. There are another.
But okay, the point was there.
You can run
naked, right?
your hand along her leg in a sexy.
Well, I'm going to be explicit here. You cannot have an interaction in the nudist beach.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's not really your choice, though, is it? Like, it just happens. You got to leave, or what? Is there little stalls?
Well, there's
your erection stall.
A big thing called the sea. You can always go there.
Everybody's standing waist deep in the water.
Man, there doesn't have to be an erection or a touching or whatever. You had intentions of going there to leer at her naked body. That's it's fucking creepy, man. I don't know how you don't think it's creepy as shit. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to judge here, but I'm just like, that's fucking creepy. That is creepy. Would you agree with me that it's creepy?
It is creepy.
Okay.
It is creepy. But the beach was pretty nice.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good.
But the beach was nice.
That's good.
Oh my god, that is funny.
It was creepy, but I don't know how we ended up friends, so.
Well, were you friends before this, though?
Well.
Not very close as we are now.
Oh.
Probably because you tried to see her naked and then... or you did see her naked and then tried to make a move and it didn't work out well.
Well, yes, and then today I just joke about it. Sometimes I do it introduced to friends that I tell these stories. And, oh, this is Marcia, the one that I didn't fuck. You know?
How about you don't tell a story?
No, it's because it's the
I
context.
think that's fine. Like we gotta explore the stuff because we know Joao is not creepy, but maybe in this instance it was a creepy point. It was a. I'm not a creepy person, but I've done things that I'm sure are viewed as creepy. I don't know.
Well, when you're attracted to someone, you
do stupid things.
You try to get in there when you can.
Actually, that's. Well, I'll bring that.
I don't know.
I like to get in there.
It was. I don't know. It was the circumstances maybe creepy as well, but it was not me just looking at her body or like I wouldn't.
As long as you're not just like.
No. I wouldn't do that. No, and of course we wouldn't be friends.
No, of course not.
Maybe we should take a break.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll come back.
I know what you need, but I never met a woman with so much green. Hey mama, hey, hey mama, I've seen you around, messing with all the poor boys in this town. Hey mama, hey just to wear the crown. Hey, mama, I know what you need, but I never met a woman with so much cream. Hey, mama. Hey, mama, hey. Hey, mama, I've seen you around, messing with all the poor boys in this town. Hey, mama. Hey, mama, hey. You burn this whole place down just to wear the crown.
All right. We are back, I think. Yeah, I'm getting picked up. I can't really hear it. Oh, yeah, I can. Okay.
Am I back?
We are back. That was, again, Crooked Spies with Hey Mama, bringing us out from the break. We were discussing the friend zone here on the Slack line. Once again with JWoww. I keep turning this thing down, and I'm going to hit it again.
Wow.
And the boss.
The boss is coming! That's a made-up dumb fairy tale name, you
Wow. We just
Yes.
actually had a breakdown here after all this friend zone talk.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to
shaking
parlay.
it.
We're going to parlay it into similar talk. And I think we're going to talk about sex a little bit.
Hoeing,
Oh,
my favorite.
hey yo. I think we can use this one last time.
Very aroused.
Very popular topic.
Yeah. I mean, it's a universal topic. We all talk about it. We all think about it. We all want it.
Yes.
Well, there's some
sometimes even too
asexual people
much.
that don't want sex, but that's fine.
That's not for them.
Whatever you want.
That's not for me.
It's not for us, but whatever floats your boat. Yeah. So sex is
Specifically about orgasm.
specifically orgasm, the female orgasm, which Xandria claims to not be receiving very many of, if
Wow,
any
let's
at
not
all.
Put that in. Thank you for that, Matt.
We can cut that. Well, that's what we were gonna talk about.
we could easy in the topic.
Why ease it in?
It's true. It's
Be
true. Why
direct,
isn't it?
be direct.
Why isn't
Why
it?
is this
Just
is cannonball into these? Oh, I have cannonball on here, I think. No, I don't. Shit.
you're in
Okay,
control.
well, we can restart. So yeah, talking about the female orgasm with Xandria. Because the male orgasm isn't very interesting. I mean, it's kind of just the same every time.
I mean, I'm interested. Like, what? So, the moment you put it in, do you just want to fucking spew, like, immediately? 'Cause that seems to me what
No.
it's like.
Well, then you're dating. That's your problem right there. Then that's your problem right there. That's not your problem. Sorry, that's other people's problems.
Let's organize because this topic is very sensitive. I guess.
That's true.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to.
Sometimes sometimes it can happen. It can happen really quickly when that's not a normal occurrence for you. Depending on what's been going on that day, how hot she is, all that type of stuff.
I just feel like it's like.
Or he, I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever.
I'm like, you know what? That must be nice to like immediately when you start having sex be able to orgasm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's not
it's
really
not-
how it is.
No.
but
you're-
if you could.
It's not. That's not nice though. Like when that happens,
Well,
when that's happening, and
yeah.
you're feeling it, you're like, oh shit, you've only been going for like a minute, and you're like, oh fuck, this is gonna. There's nothing I can do.
But imagine if
You're-
women could also feel that, and then you guys just like, it's like, oh, like wow, all of a sudden a minute later, it's like everybody comes.
I think
I've
I
been
think
with
it's-
women that
it's-
come
Really?
very quickly before.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess
I guess
it's,
yeah, everybody's
it's good
different.
that we have that difference
Mm.
because I think that forces us, maybe as men, then forces us to have a little bit more of feeling or being more into it,
Mhm.
because women are more sensitive about it. Like sensitive is not, I don't think that's a word. Anyway, I think you guys feel it different than we do.
They're more
Yeah.
emotional.
Well,
Emotional, yes.
I don't know about that.
Well,
but
that's
I think
that
what
has
we
bad
were-
connotations,
what-
but I meant just like feel it
Well,
more. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I
Connected
think,
to it a bit
yeah,
more.
what you guys are saying is kind of what we were talking about before on the break, is like the actual motion of being penetrated as
Yeah.
opposed to being the penetratee.
Yeah.
Penetrator.
Like-
You're the
I
penetratee.
like the penetratee. Oh, fuck.
Wow.
Damn it. Okay, anyway, yeah. So being the penetratee, I mean, it's different, right? Like if you think about it for a second, it's like literally like some foreign object
Mm.
connected to somebody else's body is going up inside of my body.
Yeah, and it could have like, and it's gonna shoot something into you.
Yeah, like
And it could have like disease, and it
It's
could
but
have
it's
like.
someone sticking their tongue in your mouth and then also spitting in it. Is that a good way
That's
to
a
explain it?
Like that's what they call French kiss, or
Yeah,
no?
I don't like that.
Sure, I
But-
think we could go with that.
Okay, I
maybe.
don't know. No, okay. How do I explain this?
No, I think I think I get
like-
like I don't get that obviously, but yeah, it is totally different.
It's like
But
you're-
I think
as if you were getting invaded in your
Yeah.
private space.
I like Joao the way you put
Private
it, like
parts.
because
private parts.
it is kind of nice, I guess, that it tends to take women longer to get there, and it's not. I don't want to say it's necessarily longer. It's just like you require a different touch,
Yeah.
not just single touch, but like a different sort of
Different way.
approach
Yeah.
to like a guy. You can kind of just grab it and go back and forth. I mean, there's nuances. There's nuances. I mean, I don't want to make us
Yeah.
seem to be completely utilitarian, but like, yeah, the ladies,
Yeah.
there's more to massage, and everyone is a little bit different where it
Totally.
is, and some stuff is great for others, and some stuff is
Yeah.
definitely not great
Yeah.
for some. Like, and most guys are just like kind of on board with like, if you're gonna let me put my penis in you, then like anything else I don't really care about. Like,
But there's like,
I guess that women,
Mhm.
they feel either if you are willing to give their pleasure. I mean, if you care about it, or if you don't. And for men, I'm not talking about like for some men, they just want to have pleasure. You know.
yeah, they don't care about the
They
other
don't
person.
care about the other.
And that's what I'm finding so fucking frustrating. This is why I'm not getting any fucking orgasms, Matt.
But I think
Because here's the thing: is that there's obviously lots of dudes out there that give a fuck and care. And I mean, okay, obviously we're just gonna talk about straight sex here, right? I'm
Yeah,
assuming because
yeah.
it's different. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
yeah.
So sure. But I mean, yeah. No. But so talking about like, because we're all, we all mostly have sex with people of the opposite gender. Let's just say. So yeah, the ones that are here. When I'm with a dude, it's like there's some dudes that actually give a fuck and they realize that like, oh no, you know what? Like it's gonna be pretty much it's like a mechanical thing for me to be able to come, and I want to make sure you have a good time. There's some guys that are like that for sure, but I just don't like it when a dude starts pounding on you or like sticking their fingers up inside you thinking that it's great, and I'm just sitting here waiting like and being like, oh, you know what, I don't fucking like that, or like this isn't doing much for me. And then all they do is they say like, oh, so they come and they're like, oh, does it just take you a while, like you have to get to know someone before you can come? And I'm like, no, you actually have to pleasure me.
Can I ask you? Have you like? Do you ever? Because I find that like the sexual partners I've been most connected with, they're usually women that I end up dating like for a long time. But like, there's again we go back to kind of the friend zone situation. A lot of it is about honesty.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
hey,
no, I will tell
move
people.
your finger up a little bit.
No,
okay.
I
Hey,
have-
too hard. No, I
Yeah.
don't like that.
No.
Like it's not that hard.
I'm no. That's the thing though.
Yeah.
You're right, and I am like I don't know if you can tell, but I'm pretty fucking direct.
Yeah,
So I pretty much tell people exactly what I do and don't like.
yeah, I
in
can see
bed.
that. I can
Yeah.
see that.
So,
Maybe you're like you can
but
see me
yet,
like a coach.
it still happens to me. I legit have had to fucking spread my shit and show dudes where the clitoris is.
Oh,
They
that's
don't know.
Ah,
They don't even know
dear
that you
God.
can see it. They're like, I'll be like, yeah, okay, like what you're doing right there with your fingers and your tongue and shit. I'm like, I don't like that. Doesn't do anything for me and probably other girls. And if they're making noises, maybe they're just being nice. But I'm like, there's nothing there. There's literally no like sensory. There's no nerve endings there. I'm like the clitoris is where it's at, especially for me. And that's not for everybody. But
that's disappointing to hear. I apologize for our gender. Where the sex, there's sex ed is taking a bad turn in this country.
I guess.
We need to talk about it. I actually go. Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just have an input of that. You see, I think we grew up, and our reference of sex is porn film.
Oh yeah. Or
and
in movies and
that's
stuff,
terrible
right?
because
Totally.
we've never, like, when we were growing up, no one. I'm not saying that someone should teach us, but the porn films is the anti-example of what you should do if you actually want to have a girl to be interested in
backwards. It's so wrong.
It's terrible, but you know that it's wrong because it doesn't work for you. But men can totally have orgasm doing the things that they are doing in porn, you know, just bang harder, you know, something like that. And it's not like that. It's totally different. Sex is not a porn film, and that's how we were educated.
Because it's such
some
a
people
taboo.
do like that type of stuff.
Well,
though.
it's not only that I think they like the hardness of it, but
not the
man,
design.
if there's porn for it,
yeah.
if there's porn for it, people like it.
No, listen. That's why there's a new trend there. It's like porn. They're making porn more specific to women now.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. It's not like the story about the guy that goes clean up the pool and just
No,
but that's what we grew up with.
Yeah, that's true.
What Matt was saying too is it's interesting you say that because I don't necessarily agree with that in the sense that I think that you can enjoy porn for the fantasy aspect of it. Of, like girls can watch more, you know, violent or whatever stuff that they would not want to happen to them. They don't want it, but they enjoy the fantasy of it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, same thing for guys. Like a guy watch porn for things that I would never do, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that there is a segment of our population.
Well, yeah,
if there is porn for it, then there are people that want to be doing it.
I mean, we can say that about literally any fucking thing.
Well,
ever.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, obviously some people are going to, we get that. Like,
well, then, well, then it goes back to you only know if you're communicating with each other off the bat about it, especially for our listeners, if you're going to be entering into some sort of hardcore physical bondage type situation. That stuff you need consent for that. Well, you need consent for all of it, but you need fucking like written signed consent for that shit.
a safe word.
There's
and a safe word.
Of studies that I some of them I remember because I read recently, but it takes a lot of chemistry in a man's body, for instance, to have an erection, and we can do it with just a thought. Now, for instance, when we watch, when people out there watch porn films,
not us,
and masturbate, you know, those people.
Masturbation is a sin.
Yeah, the thing is that in the brain, how they are reading that in the brain is that they are relating to those characters, but they are not relating with their own bodies. You know, the experience of you touching your own body without actually having something to see, you know, just for the experience of touching your own body. And that reflects, in my opinion, when you're having sex, because you're so used to the image of what sex should be and what sex is that you're not open to what sex could be.
It does, man. Like I have firsthand knowledge of that a little bit. Pretty recent stuff, actually. Like before I came out here, I was in a long-term relationship, broke up, and yeah, you're on.
No, just talk closer.
Oh, sorry. And I went for a long time without sex, partially by choice and partially like our school was just like so fucking busy. Like it just didn't really have time for. I mean, you can make time, but anyways.
I always had time.
Yeah, you can always make time, but you know, there's a lot of. I mean, my whole thing was that like, oh, there's so much responsibility behind it and effort that goes into it that I just like don't want to deal with, and so I took a long break from it, which was fine. But as I've been starting to try to get back into it, I'm feeling that what you're talking about is just like this dissociation of well, that's not what sex feels like.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting what the real thing feels like on the regular, you forget, and it's no good.
Yeah.
You gotta get it on the regular.
Yeah, get it on the reg. But it's funny because back to the female orgasm.
Hey, you brought up you want to talk about the male orgasm.
No, that's all very interesting. I'm just saying I have a thought.
Yeah. Hit us with your thought words.
Because you were talking about studies and stuff, and we're talking about every woman's different. Everybody's different. I actually saw something that was super interesting, and it does relate, I think, to a lot of women, how, like, a lot of dudes are like, well, some chicks just, like, takes forever for them to orgasm. And I'm like, yeah, you know why? Okay, I saw this. So you guys all know how the clitoris is just an underdeveloped penis, right?
No.
That's kind of how it starts. In a general,
okay.
like a very
that makes sense,
term.
I guess. I can see that, sure.
Yeah, so you all start female to embryo or whatever, right? And then the clitoris can grow into a penis, or it like stays and forms into a clitoris. Anyway, it's like similar parts.
Okay.
So some women, it's not just on the outside, right? It goes inside.
Yeah.
So that's how you would come from internal.
Okay.
Whatever. Stimulation. So some women's are short and underdeveloped. They don't have time to keep growing. So they're shorter. So it's literally like external and a little tiny bit of internal, maybe right at the opening or something. But women who have longer internal clitorises can come easier because there's that kind of stimulation.
Interesting.
So for instance, I'm pretty sure I don't fucking have that because internal does shit for me. I mean, obviously it feels fine.
Yeah.
But I just literally can't come internally. And it's like no matter how much you vocalize that to someone, and it's like, hey, I literally just external, and they don't want to. Like, I recently had someone tell me, oh, I don't like going down on girls, and I was like, oh, are you gonna fucking tell me it's gross because I'm gonna punch you in the mouth? Because you expect me to put your fucking dick in my mouth, which I have.
Yeah.
But and he was like, no, it's not that it's gross. It's just that, you know, it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't pleasure me. And I was like, what? And you have no idea how many...
Who the
boys.
fuck are you
These
people?
Are boys. And you have no idea how many fucking boys have told me, well, that doesn't do anything for me. Bitch, it's not supposed to. It's supposed to do something for me because I'm doing stuff for you, too. It's like, how do you guys feel about it?
Man.
Do you... But, like, I want to know, what do you guys think? 'Cause
I love it.
For me, I feel like it's a mutual thing. You're mutually trying to pleasure each other. Like, that's what it should be, right? It's not like it's only for me or it's only for the other person.
I enjoy going down on a girl. I think it's awesome. Most of the time, it tastes good. I don't know what people's problems are with that. Sometimes it's not. I mean, and just like, I'm sure there's dicks that are not nice.
You're on someone's privates.
Well, I'm sure there are dicks that are not nice to put in your mouth, but like... like I like it because I mean I think we're going back to what you guys were talking about before when I was away from the table was like there are certain guys that are more like I think that it's a majority I would think not a huge like vast majority but like a majority of guys care about how a woman gets through the sexual experience, and I think for those guys whether they like the taste or not are gonna go down because I mean, for me, that's part of it. Like, that's what's getting me off. It's like, if you're, like, moaning and screaming and stuff, and I'm the one that's making you do that, then that's what's making me hard. If you're not doing those things, then I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong down here?
If the other person isn't aroused, how can I be aroused?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, okay, this person's not aroused, but I'm still going to fuck them. Like, what? How does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know?
That's weird. I'm also a big fan of... but I
mustache.
I think we can.
The ladies are also a fan.
You see, tickles.
It tickles.
I think the metaphor could be when you cook. Okay, when you cook to someone.
Okay.
And or if you cook for a group, you like to see them enjoying and having pleasure to eat the food that you made. I mean, you see, I think pleasure goes both ways. So it's not because you're you had the mouth on the thing or the thing in the mouth. That doesn't. I think the pleasure is just sex is more than that. Who is pleasuring whom? Because if you're pleasuring someone, you also are at least for me, I'm also feeling a lot of pleasure to do so.
Yeah,
you know,
that's part of it.
When you cook a dish, it's not only because you really like it, but if there's people around and they're eating and they're enjoying, it's like, man, it feels so good.
Yeah, it's like releasing like dopamine or serotonin, some type of chemical. I'm not sure which one is science.
You see, this actually...
It's science.
We separate too much about who is going to have the pleasure now and who is going to have... I think that's one of the problems.
Yeah, I agree.
pleasure is
It's like my turn, your turn. Like,
Yeah,
no, we're just. It's an
thing
hour
that-
of like, let's just have some.
An hour, hey?
Well, yeah, if you're counting like the whole shebang, like, it should last
take
that
long,
long.
man.
Yeah.
You know what? I need to grow up
I'm not
there.
saying the whole penetration should be
Yeah.
lasting
No,
an
no,
hour.
no. I
but-
know what you mean, but I mean, you would be surprised how many dudes just skip foreplay completely.
I would. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised, but
And
like,
then
guys, like,
then-
pick your game up, boys. Like, get your shit together and go down on your lady. Play with her button down there. Like, it's shameful. I hear this from so many women in my age group, and it's a fucking shame. Like, it's ridiculous.
I guess.
If you want your dick sucked, fucking stick your tongue in her. What?
I don't understand how. I don't understand.
Angry
how,
about this.
How this works. I guess when we get older, I don't know. I guess when we get older, we realize those things better than when you are 18.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 17.
You know, maybe I need to get off the teenage dick.
Yeah, that's a
my
problem, probably. Yeah, you move up to the 25
But
plus
no,
group.
I was fucking a 28-year-old when I was 20, right? Same shit. He just wouldn't.
28-year-olds that fuck 20-year-olds don't know how to fuck.
That's true. No, he
That's-
literally said to me, he's like,
Well, yeah, I'm 28, so I'll have to amend that statement.
but he said to me,
For the 20-year-olds out there,
he
single.
said, "Oh, so can you just not get wet naturally? Do you always need lube?" And I was like, "When you don't do anything for me before, and we don't have any foreplay, and you just want to stick it in like fucking dry, yeah, I need lube. But if you actually tried, maybe I'd be able to get wet." It's like, it's ridiculous how many times they try to put it on the other person.
Yes.
It's like, oh, well, women's bodies are so weird and mysterious. No, they're fucking not at all. You literally just have to try a little bit.
Yeah, well, they are weird and mysterious, but you just have to learn.
Yeah,
We're
well, I
all
mean,
weird and mysterious.
Yeah, like the male body is
it's-
weird and mysterious to me, but you just learn and then you know, and then there
Yeah, like we
go.
got things like hanging off of our like bodies. Like we're weird too. It's not.
Yeah, no, it's called
There's
Google,
nuance, you know?
Like it's like Google some shit.
Yeah.
Like learn about the other, or talk to someone, have someone willing to show you. Like it's not like it's a hard thing to do. It's just
No.
literally like lack of wanting or lack.
Everybody
of,
wants to think they're the best at it, and so like like you should just like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
well,
That's the problem. It's image.
Yeah.
We are fucking our images. If we could have mirrors around and just
Yeah.
look how we fuck it, like we were taught in the fucking porn films.
Have you guys
So-
ever had sex with someone and they look in the mirror and watch?
Yes.
That's weird,
It was
right?
weird.
like it.
Oh,
No, I think it was weird.
but they're looking at themselves. I mean, not you.
I'm looking at both of us.
Okay, but no, I mean like people looking at themselves.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
You don't think it's
Man,
weird?
again, like if people want, like
No,
if
no,
I'm with a girl and she wants me to do pretty much anything, like it's
Okay.
yeah, it's no holds barred, like whatever.
I don't think the problem should be the mirror. The problem is the image.
Mhm.
If they look at the mirror but they are feeling you, is a thing.
Yeah.
If they look at the mirror and they're just banging him, he's banging himself. You know.
Yeah, that's
That-
kind of what I
that's-
mean.
that's-
Like the
that's-
American Psycho scene,
see,
like with fucking.
so
like,
I guess
looking
that's
at
different.
I
Yeah.
guess what we are having now today is a lot of those dudes. They're not actually having sex. They're just having automatic.
Jerking off.
They're,
Yeah.
It's automatic. It's
They're
automatic
using
masturbation.
A body to
Yes,
masturbate
yes.
with. Yeah.
It's masturbation. It's the same thing, and I think it's not even a high level of masturbation, because a high level of masturbation, you'll be feeling your own body as a whole and not actually having the image of doing so. You know, so it's a very it's just so not enough. You know, it's just like they bring it down the level of what this could be. And I just wanted to say something, and I might go out of the line here, but that's fine.
Ooh.
It's the line is slack, my
Ooh.
friend.
Line, because
I get it.
Ah. Uh-huh.
Took me a second.
that I used to have a girlfriend, and she was bisexual.
Mhm.
And one of the things that she said that she loved in women
Mhm.
was the amount of time of foreplay.
Mhm.
And
Because we get
Well,
it.
the whole
And-
thing is like
and-
foreplay.
and
There's
that-
not really.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Once
and-
it goes
but
in,
then-
it's like, well, this is gonna be over
yeah,
soon. It's
yes,
like it's most
yes,
of the build up.
yes.
You know? Like,
So actually, she taught me a lot of, like, spending a lot of time there, and by the end it was great for her. It was
Mhm.
great for me. She taught me a lot on that department. I guess the problem is man pride.
Pride. Yeah.
Yes, men think 10 out of 10 think that they're brilliant in sex.
I think some guys are really insecure.
Yeah, I was
But-
gonna say I don't think that's true. I think
No,
we
no,
all
no, no,
want to
no,
be.
Maybe coming off as that. You
Look,
mean?
yes, coming
Okay,
off is
okay.
like the image of
Mhm.
the show off that you
Mhm.
are, and
You want to be the best one they've ever had.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and we're so lost in that trend of thought of how people should think that you're the best.
Right. You're
That-
more worried about how people think of you.
Yeah,
Yes.
because they're gonna go tell their friends about whatever this is, and yeah.
But I think that's something, a misconception, I think, that some guys have, is that they think that girls are going to go shit talk their weak dick game. Because, I mean, yeah, some people do that
Well,
'cause
we've
they
all been
suck.
sitting around with you guys while you're talking weak
No,
dick
I know.
game.
But I mean, like, but I mean, I'm not naming names and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
No, but people know. Well, people that are close to you will know.
yeah,
Word
but-
gets
well,
around.
Not necessarily, but I don't know. I mean, I mean in the sense that, like, I'm not gonna go to some other girls and be like, yo, that guy fucking sucks in bed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna do that because
that's
it's
true.
malicious. And unless that person's a fucking dickhole to me and does it to me first, I'm not gonna do it.
And
like,
who's to say they're bad in bed with everybody? Like it's
And
it's
also, it could
completely
just be that
partner
time.
dependent. Yeah,
You know what I mean? Maybe both of you just didn't jam.
yeah.
You know,
it
so
happens.
that's why I'm always like, I'm never gonna judge someone off of one fuck.
Yeah,
Like, you
And-
can't.
No, you
don't-
shouldn't.
You don't want to do it again. That's fine, but you can't be like, oh, they're awful in bed. No, that time was not good.
Yeah.
And we, as men, we became so stupid with that we are still obsession of dick size.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird.
Which, okay, I get it. I mean, but a lot of women that I talk to, most of them, that's not the most important thing. Sure, some of them like it bigger or smaller, but that's never the issue.
No,
the issue's
the only
never
time I've
that.
ever heard it being issues if it's too small or too big, which is like you're talking like a small amount of the population.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's normally that it's too big because you know what? That shit is not that big in there. So anybody that's saying
I've always been
like,
curious, like watching it going, and I'll be like, how is this fitting in
like
there?
comfortable. like, okay, like
Where
okay,
is this going?
Biology wise, yeah, we stretch to an extent.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you fucking are bottoming out, that's not nice.
No,
Like,
no.
that's
Every
not
once in a
nice.
while, you get the oh,
Yeah.
that's too.
Yeah, and we are so stupid that some of the men that I don't know would just say, "Yeah, man, you're so big that you can fit there." You know, it's so
It's like,
like,
is that supposed to be
I
good?
have never-
yeah, it's supposed to be
Never
good. That
once
doesn't
has somebody
matter.
said these words to me.
Man, there are a lot of dudes out there, so probably they're not your friends. Congratulations, you have better friends.
That's good. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. You know, people that talk like
But-
that.
Well,
But
like
man, that's a trend of thought.
Yeah.
And then as women too, we're exposed to from so early, like, oh, big dicks are better, big dicks. So there are some chicks that are out there that are like, oh, that's it, like, oh, it should be bigger, and they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about because they don't know. You know what I mean?
because
And
they've
it's
only
like-
watched porn where there's dicks like the size of your fucking forearm, and it's like,
Exactly, and it's like so.
like I'm
dudes-
comfortable with what I got, but that is like mutant, like
Yeah,
whatever the
it's
fuck
like
is going on
So
there.
dudes are insecure about their dick size,
Yep.
and then there are women that feel like it should be a certain way or not because
Mm.
they've been told. They're not even going off of their own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They've just been told, so they're like, oh, I've been told that it should be this way. So if it's not, then I'm not gonna deal with that. Or dudes, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, dick size is like so weird. I was actually talking to a dude about that, and he was like, yeah, you know, I mean, mine's not the biggest, but it's also not the smallest. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, nobody gives a fuck. And if
Yeah.
they do, they're trash. Throw
Yeah.
them out in the trash, put them in the alley, put them in the bin, leave them forever. Like,
I just guess
or educate them.
we still think, not we, but
Mhm.
a lot of men still think that it is about the dick.
Mhm.
Sex is about the dick, and
And it's like a small portion of it.
it's just yeah,
Small, like that's like you thought like 30% maybe.
But
Like
yeah.
there's no use to having
it's a
a
large
dick.
minority.
Like just put it into words. There's no use to having a dick if you don't know how to use your
Oh
hips.
no, yeah, for sure,
For instance,
for sure.
you know, just in the basic, if you don't know how to use your hips, you don't know how to
No,
use it.
yeah.
And that's not only the mechanical part. We're just talking about the mechanical parts. Now we're not talking
You
about
gotta
the
read how
feeling.
they're feeling.
We're
about
not
it.
Yeah.
talking about the interaction between
Yeah.
the two people. You know, so I and that's where I was going to the slackline. I sometimes I think that that's why a lot of women are discovering themselves lesbians or they're trying something else, because I might be totally wrong, and I'm sorry to our listeners, But I guess that sometimes we're just not enough, and they have to try something else, and they just find out that women can be good, and they started from that. I don't know.
That doesn't make sense.
I'm kidding. No, yeah.
I don't know if we're.
I think that's just more of an openness of our society that is, not just allowing women but people in general to just feel out things more in that
because
realm.
It's not
of
as like openly discouraged and like I'm gonna kill you or you're gonna get arrested if you're this way. Like it literally used to be.
Yeah, so if people have like even like a little thought of like, that's interesting, they're willing to try it rather than because they're not gonna be like socially ousted by their whole.
But I don't think bad dick game is turning people into lesbians. I know that's not what you're saying.
No,
I know that's not what you're saying.
I'm
at
not
all.
saying that.
No, I
I'm
know.
saying that we became so lame in that sex stuff.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think that's the reason. I think that people are maybe perhaps just lesbians, and and then I don't think that your dick really has anything to do with it or not. To be honest,
that's probably fair.
Because
that's probably fair.
Because the world does not revolve around dicks.
We'll stick with that one. I think that one works. Okay, well, I want to take it to another part, another orgasm, the fake orgasm.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
We can't do that. That's not fair.
You can do it.
Yeah, we can. I've done it. Okay, the fake orgasm. My best sexual partners, like I said, have been people that I've been in long-term relationships with. And again, it came down to open communication at the beginning. Like, I tell people straight up, like, don't bullshit me with fake orgasms. If you're not going to come, just tell me you're not going to come. Because if you're bullshitting me with a fake orgasm, then I never know if when you do have one, if what I'm actually doing is right. So just have them when you have them or don't. This fake thing is part, I think, of what throws men off of being like, well, no, it is because we're all in the pursuit of this orgasm. Yeah. But now, like you're saying, I didn't even know this about I knew that obviously clitorises are different lengths and stuff. I didn't know that it had anything to do with, going further back and whatnot, all that stuff. Yeah. So like, there's obviously these differences here that you're just throwing out the window by lying to people.
Well, I know what you're saying, but you also have to remember too that I think you have to think about why women do that in the first place, and that's because there's so many fucking fragile male egos out there, and that's really great that like you're not one of those people, and you're like, hey, if you're not gonna fucking like, just tell me. And honestly, I've never faked ever because there's no point in that. Like, I agree with that.
Makes no
but
sense.
I think that there's sometimes people are worried about letting the other person down, or maybe how the other person might react once their ego is bruised.
But like, how are you ever gonna expect them to improve on whatever their shortcomings might be if you're faking
sometimes
the completion of it?
Sometimes people are not. They're just like, okay, let's get it over with, like,
well, then just say it's done. Then just say it's done.
Well,
like, thanks, get off of me. Pull your dick out.
That's the whole like communication thing. But again, I'm gonna bring up the point where you have to think about why people do this in the first place, right? So, and the reason maybe is because they're afraid the other person's going to be mad at them. They don't know how they're going to react. Like, there is a certain fear element that could be a part of it, or just like it's an uncomfortable thing, right? Like, you don't feel good when someone else is like, I don't know. I guess it's just like being afraid of the reaction. And you guys might not get that, but like sometimes I'm generally like, people can be fearful of how someone else is going to react to something based on previous things.
Okay.
So I don't think it's fair to be like, well, you're lying, and how do you expect anybody to... Well, I expect someone to care about trying to please me. You know what I mean? I expect that. So if they're not going to try, then no matter what I do, it's not me. Like, I'm not causing this, So someone faking an orgasm or whatever, they're not inviting people to be not attentive to them. It's like, okay, yeah, I know what you mean by this sense that like, okay,
not inviting it, but it's just gonna be a natural side effect of doing it, because they're not gonna think that they're doing anything wrong. Like, oh, she comes every time, so I must be a fucking champ.
But I mean, can you not tell different. You know, I mean, maybe not.
Well, then what's the
I don't
point?
know.
What's the, if your thinking is, well, they must be able to tell the difference, then what's the point of the fake?
Well, I don't know. I don't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm saying is
No,
that
well, yeah. I mean, most of the
There's
time you
two-
could tell the
it's two
difference.
Examples. One if it's one night stand, and the other is if you have a relationship.
a
with
long
someone.
Yeah.
You have to
standing.
fake,
Yeah.
and, you know, they're
That's true.
I guess all I'm saying is that I understand where you're coming from, like, and I agree with, like, you can't expect if there's no communication, then you can't expect. But you could also be communicating the whole time and just get to the point where you're like, this person's getting frustrated and just fake it. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different circumstances that I don't think anybody's inviting anything upon themselves. I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Can I make a suggestion to those who would fake it?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
It's a free country, man.
A suggestion to those who are faking it. Instead of being like, okay, I'm gonna fake the orgasm now, just like
Sing a song.
just turn around and finish the guy off, and then
Or don't.
Why not?
If they're not gonna finish you, I should finish them.
Yeah.
Whoa,
that's
like
the
we're
thing, too.
talking. That's like
That's the thing too, man. Just press one of those little buttons that you have there. The boo.
Toast. Sorry, that was the closest
No,
one.
but I mean, like,
No,
you're like,
like-
oh, if you're not gonna come, just finish the guy. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why should
But
I?
you're talking about
Just go there
but
and
no,
finish yourself.
you're talking about a biological thing, or that's what I was coming from it from a point of like, well, maybe if it like for somebody like you, who won't come from internal, and so if you're one of these women, and instead of being like you fake it. I mean, it's not the guy's fault that you're not gonna come from internal.
So are you saying like, okay, let him finish and then he finishes you?
No,
Because
I mean,
there's no.
yeah, I got like. I don't know.
I
In
don't
my
understand
head,
what you're
like
saying.
orgasms have already. I guess like the going down and all that stuff has already been happening.
Yeah, but if it
and,
doesn't
like,
though, right? And instead of faking, you're just supposed to let the guy finish and.
No, yeah, I guess that's not really what I meant. Like,
Okay.
in my scenario, I would have already made the girl come,
Okay,
and so
but
now it's just
Why
about.
would they come? Why would they fake
Well,
coming if they already came?
Yeah, I guess that's a good
So
point.
I'm going off the assumption that the girl hasn't come yet, and you know that, and then you're saying, okay, instead of faking it, just turn around and finish me off.
No, yeah.
It sounds bad.
It does sound bad.
It sounds bad. but
It does sound
I know
bad.
you didn't mean that.
But I know what you mean
Yeah.
now that
Like-
you say you think they already came.
Yeah.
But then there's
Well,
no reason to fake it again.
But even if not, like again, we're still talking about pleasure of both people.
Mhm.
And if you're not if you're not willing to direct your partner to improve their game, and you're just gonna sit there and make fake noises and make a fake orgasm, and then not turn around and.
What do you mean turn around? Just let him
Okay,
finish.
or just let him finish or whatever. Yeah.
Why
I guess,
wouldn't
like,
they? No, okay, I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
I
It's
just
okay.
I'm going off on a random train
because
thought.
you can still not come and enjoy sex.
Yes, that's
You know
what
what I mean?
I
Yeah.
was going to ask you.
Yeah, like I still obviously like
It's
I'm,
different for
still-
it's
you
kind
still-
of different
you
for
still
guys. Like you
wanna-
still like it
you
it
still
obviously
want
feels
to,
good, but
even
like
though you think that you're not gonna.
Yeah,
you're
so
not
if
gonna have
I'm
orgasm.
for instance I'm like, you know what, this person is just not gonna, and I've done everything, they've tried their hardest and it's literally just not gonna happen. I'm not gonna just fucking like jump off you and run out and be like, I see ya. Like no, like obviously
Yeah.
whatever, you finish whatever the fuck. But like I can still enjoy it. But then if I don't make fake noises at the end and you're like, oh that must have sucked, blah blah blah. It's like no, I still enjoyed it. I just like
Yeah.
it didn't happen this time.
Yeah.
Like we'll try again.
Mhm.
Like you can still enjoy it, and
Mhm.
the dude can do everything he can, and you can do everything you can, and it has a lot to do with mentally too.
Yeah.
Right? Like I gotta be in the right mental headspace
Yeah.
too. Like it's not, and I'm sure you guys too. Like
Yeah.
if you're distracted, if you're not comfortable,
For
if you're not-
sure.
like
I
if
guess-
if you're doing it and you're bloated or some shit, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel generally like how it should, then you can't. You know,
Yeah.
like it's
It
a
happens.
biological thing.
Yeah.
There's
And it's just good to be honest about it, like
Yeah.
you were saying. You know.
Yeah.
There's another train of thought.
I'm sorry about my previous.
Don't be sorry.
It's okay.
It was just
Okay.
funny.
This is the slack
It's
line.
just
I
like,
gotta
what the
say-
fuck is Matt
I
talking
gotta have
about?
something here that is just like
I have a whole bag of shh.
I don't know.
It's
Shut
okay.
me down with something here.
All right. There's another thought. When we do the opposite. So, another girlfriend of mine, she said, we used to have a very good sex and stuff, but one of the times that we were having sex, she said, you were thinking too much about giving me
Mm-hmm.
pleasure, and that's not gonna happen today because of something that was in her mind. You know, she was very open about it. I really appreciate that she was that open about it, and so you see that's another problem too. If you do it just for the sake of pleasuring the other and not for having the full experience of sex, of what sex could be, you know?
Yeah, no, we've been saying the whole time it should be mutual though, right? So.
Yeah, but not only the pleasure part, you know, the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
Not only the part of, okay, now I'm going to give you pleasure and you give me pleasure.
I thought that's what we were talking about the whole time.
No, so that's just another, a different trend of thought. That if you're also too...
only focused on the other person and not, and then it's disconnected.
It's disconnected as well.
Bosh.
You know.
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah, that was my thought about it.
I love this kimono. It's just like, thank you.
Yes.
It is an interesting thought.
Totally.
I also think that my mic's not on. I think love has a huge part to do with it as well. Like.
Oh. Don't even start with love, man.
Well, as far as like the best sex I've ever had has always been with people that I've loved. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And so I've always been so confused by people, and I think this is kind of perpetuated by like our media and stuff too, like all these shows where like the guy is a buffoon and is terrible at sex and like can't, and like the wife is always talking about how like she never has orgasms and stuff like that. And fuck, I completely lost my train of thought. No. Oh yeah, but people always talk about, and I remember hearing it from like my girlfriends talking about their friends, like, oh my friend says that she like never has orgasms, or they have to do this like crazy thing in order for her to orgasm, and I was like, how do you have a long-term relationship with somebody who is not sexually compatible with you?
Yeah, like you shouldn't. Sex is a big part of it.
It's a huge part of it.
For sure.
But man, that's the thing. Sometimes it begins really well. Sometimes it begins really well.
Like a fire.
Yeah. And then ends up being like lame, you know, like by the end of it you guys are just so not into each other or hurt. You know, that is just, it became lame again.
No, that's true. I mean, but that sucks. And then maybe that's also a sign that, you know, maybe some of the fire's gone. Like maybe that's a sign that there's other problems in your relationship.
Yes, so.
But I mean, what I was kind of getting at more with like the media aspect of it is I think that that's been perpetuated as something that's normal. That's like, that it's okay to be in like a relationship where there's like no sex or the sex is terrible or whatever, and that like that's just kind of
having sex.
and it's like, oh wait, that's probably not good though, right? Like
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and it's just kind of people just talk about it like it's a normal thing, and I like it shouldn't be like you should be having regular sex with your partner,
and it's almost shamed that it's like, oh, you're too focused on sex. And it's like, no, it's a big part. Like, if you're with someone that you're not sexually compatible with, I'm sorry, it is a big part. Not for everybody. For me, it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like if you can't be with someone in the physical aspect, like I mean, there's always the emotional whatever, but for some people, you just also need to be able to connect physically. Yep. And I'm not saying it's for everybody. But if you are not sexually compatible, that is a reason for someone to maybe, you know, want to move on to someone else. Like, it's not, you can't just discount that reason.
It's true, but don't you think that lately in our relationships, like in general as a society, we are just moving on too fast from the relationships? But what I mean is that, so like 2 months later, it's not the same, and you're just gonna find someone else.
It's so exciting at the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
and
no, I agree.
I think we are losing a bit of the point when the relationships are just too short. I can tell it for myself. I just I have this I have this saying that I always say that my shoes, they last longer than my relationships. Now I don't know if I had to buy crappy shoes now or just get better at relationships. I'd probably get better at relationships, but I think we are losing the capacity of being with someone for longer than then I don't know.
I don't know about losing the capacity. I agree that that's a problem. I have shoes that I've had for a long time. I don't know. I take care of my shoes. Or I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, I think that it's a strange sort of development, but I also think that we like something like divorce was good. I think like allowing divorce to happen, pretty freely allows people to get out of terrible situations and stuff like that, which is important. But it also has become just like an out from pretty simple problems, I think, that people used to work at. And I'm not talking about like, well, my spouse treats me like shit, and so you should work at that. Like, no, you should get a divorce because your spouse treats you like shit. Or try first, maybe some counseling or whatever. But if they continue to treat you like shit, then leave. But like, pretty minor things, irreconcilable differences that are just like, we got married and now I think that person's kind of hotter than you. And it's like, well, maybe you should work at the marriage thing a little bit harder before you decide to, stray away from that.
Work on yourself maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Or maybe you shouldn't. You were just too jumping the gun. Maybe we get married too easily too, because that's also, I mean, like, I asked an ex to marry me, and obviously that didn't end up working out. But like,
you get a dog instead.
Part of it though was like, I think looking back on it, I don't look at marriage as that big of a deal because we were already living together, like technically under the law, we were married, that's like we could have went through like splitting assets and shit. That we didn't do any of that stuff, thankfully. But like, I mean, so at this point now, it's purely just about like a party with your friends, really, and like being able to say that you're married, like. You can still just put a ring on somebody's finger and say that you're married, and like it would be no different. Really.
I mean, it's really interesting for me to hear this from you guys because I've honestly have never been in a long-term relationship, and my longest one is 8 months, I think, and for half of that person was out of the country. So, like, I don't know why. I don't know. It's probably a me thing, but I think
it depends on your life too. Like, I mean, if you live kind of a life of, your job is not necessarily always going to be like one thing, and like you're moving around or whatever, or like you're a young person and you just don't want to be tied down to a certain person, like that's fine. Like it's just fine.
Or maybe, you see, you're a very, you're a very direct person, and a lot of men, and I include myself in that, we have very.
It's intimidating.
It is intimidating.
See, and that's the thing I hear all the time.
But
and I'm
it's about the ego. It's
just
a very.
No, I get that.
It's a problem with the ego.
Just when you're coming with your coffee.
Yeah.
That's our problem.
Yeah.
No, and I get that. And what I always respond to dudes that tell me that I was intimidating when they first met me, because also I don't sit around and wait for people to pursue me. I always do the pursuing because I'm like, well, I mean, it's just like. I have friends that sit around and wait for guys to approach them. I'm like, if I like a guy, I'm going to go up to them. But I always say, I'm like, if a guy, it's like do you guys know the author Chimamanda Adichie? She wrote like half of A Yellow Sun and stuff. She's a Nigerian author.
Okay.
And she has this quote, and she's like, any man that's intimidated by me is exactly the type of man I have no interest in.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with me. So I find yeah, you can be direct and stuff, but it's like, why aren't any dudes comfortable with a woman that's confident sexually, whatever, like it's
dudes
like,
you're in a
I'm in a weird age zone.
Well, that's part of it. You're in a weird age zone, but also the people that you surround yourself with, mostly artists and stuff like that, tend to not be very outgoing people, tend to be pretty insecure people.
So I should go for like businessmen.
Well, I was thinking while you're talking, I was like, Xandria is definitely going to end up with like a high-powered businessman because well, they're like, that's what they're like, right? And like, I'm not saying that there aren't artists that are, but
I disagree with you totally.
Yeah.
You think there aren't artists that are
no,
like
no,
that?
I disagree. That's
Okay.
the businessman thing.
No, well, like
No, and I do think that's
businessmen don't have to be
man,
like
it's just an image.
the man.
It's just an image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an image again.
Yeah.
That's what they sell to you.
Yeah.
I think artists are closer to be to recognize that they have an ego and they are working on it than businessmen that have it all.
Oh, I
They
would
have
totally
money,
agree.
man.
I-
And money in society
I would amend
makes
it
you
by
the
saying
king,
like
you know?
like just like a successful business person,
Someone who's not
somebody who
intimidated.
runs their own shit.
Okay.
You know, not somebody who's like a grip.
Hey, grips are cool.
Grips are cool,
Hey.
but most grips are gonna look at Xandria and be like, man, that chick like has her shit together and she's scary. But the producers are walking through going like, that Xandria chick.
No,
She's really,
man,
like,
no.
But
powerful.
I have a question for you guys though.
You don't think so?
No.
I have a question for you guys though. So, what do you guys think about women that pursue guys? Because I've had lots of people, you know, there's the stereotype of like, oh, that's desperate, oh, that's whatever. And I have so many girlfriends that I just can't get to come and do that with me. But like, it's worked for me.
Girls are the ones
and-
that think that are those people are desperate.
Okay, because I'm like, I don't see a problem with it, and I don't know if like.
I think stuff like that is from like women are really harsh on each other. Like
Some are.
But even like friends, you see women that are friends, like they can flip flop really fast on things. That like guys, when guys are friends, they're friends, and when they hate each other, they hate each other. And there's just like there's kind of really no mixing that a lot. Well, I mean,
Joao doesn't
anyways, Joao, whatever.
I don't
Stop it.
agree with you. I
Okay, well, I'm just that's kind of beside my point. That's kind of beside my point. Anyways, I think that specific thing is kind of more feminine constructed than it is from guys being like, oh, I don't like it. I think it's desperate when a girl comes up and asks me out or something like that. Like, no.
guess
Like,
it-
I would love that. It would be the best thing in the world. God, it takes so much of the fucking pressure out of the situation. I've always been like, why do I have to be the person every time? I talked to a friend of mine the other day. We were just having a drink, just kind of about this. And I'm like, okay, so I make, like, girl and I make eyes from across the bar or whatever. And, like, you get the signals. And she's like, yeah, you should just go over and talk to her. I'm like, why can't that girl come over and talk to
It's kind of a very
me?
traditional thing where the man has to be the one
Why?
to do all the work. I don't know. It's
I don't
like,
want to do it. That's part of the reason why I went a year without sex. Because I was like, I'm fucking done with it. Like, I'm so sick of just being like
I
putting
guess-
yourself out there all the time.
just my perspective on what you ask. I think that really depends
on the person's.
on how the people approach.
Yeah.
It's like how a man approaches you. I think that you know
So how you approach that person.
how you
yeah.
approach the other person. I think
sure.
it plays a big part on that. I had girls that came to me and it was fine. It was different, but that's the thing, the approach is not like for me it was different of what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
It was more. It was a feminine approach to the situation, which was great which was great because we just think the opposite thing, right?
Yeah.
Like so if the girl would write to you, she'll say, "Yeah, let's have sex." No, man, she'd never do that, man.
I've done it once, only once.
That's not usually you. That's
He
not
was
how
a friend
usually.
too, sort of. Well, he
That's not
wasn't
how
a friend,
usually
but I knew him.
you would do it.
No,
right?
no,
You probably would do in a different way.
know-
But in our man brain, that's like either you are pursued or you have an attitude
Yeah.
like a man.
But you know
just
what I
Go
do
and grab it.
is it's funny because a lot of chicks ask me, they're like, "How do you just do it? Like, how do you just do it?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean,
words.
yeah, I'm like talk, and also like you just this is gonna sound, I don't know, people might not like this, but sometimes I just make the guy think it was his idea, and I mean you can normally
Mental
tell when
manipulation.
someone's into you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I can tell a guy's into me or his friend or whatever, like, I mean, that's also cheesy when someone's friend tells you that they like you, but whatever. I always act on it if I want to, despite the cheesiness. And, but I'll be like, okay, so
Wait,
this
what?
dude.
I want to rewind to that. No, we'll come back to that. Continue your
Okay.
thing.
Okay. But like if I'm like, okay, I like this dude, I'm into him, and I can normally kind of tell, I don't know. I don't know if dudes can tell, but I can normally tell when a dude's reciprocating the attraction.
It's tough sometimes, man.
Okay,
from my
I can normally
perspective.
tell because I like put my boobs out there, and if they seem to like it, no, I'm just joking. No, I'm just joking.
Everybody likes your boobs.
No, I'm just joking. No, but I mean, if I see a guy and I'm like, okay, so I'm just gonna start talking to him and stuff, and then I'll do some flirty stuff like, oh, are we playing pool? Oh, show me how to, like, I'm not very good at pool. Maybe you could help me with my stance, like get up behind me, or I'll dance with you. Like there's things
That's
that.
pretty overt.
Well, I'm inviting the
Yeah.
touching. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
I'm inviting it,
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty obvious for the dude to get the go ahead, like, and then they kind of feel like they've pursued you, even though I'm like, I'll see someone, and at the beginning of the night, I'm like, yeah, it's fucking on. You know what I mean? Like, it's already over in my head.
Yeah.
Like,
No, but
You're just on the prowl.
yes, but that's what I heard about. That's.
But I mean, that's a good way to approach it. You know what I mean? Because guys like to feel like they've, gotten, like well, okay, I shouldn't say guys. Everybody likes to feel like they've accomplished something. So if you make someone feel like they've gotten you somehow, then that's great, because that person feels really good about themselves, and then you feel good because you've got what you wanted, and also you've made someone else feel good. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's the way I try to normally go about it, or I'm just like directly very flirty with them, and they're like, wow, this person's pursuing me. And then normally it scares them a little bit.
But okay, like all of this is great. But nowhere is it said like I will ask a guy for his number.
Oh, I've done that.
Okay.
I did that very recently. Actually, I went to the bar and I was like, hey, do you have a pen and paper? And they're like, yes. And they brought me in. I said, good, write your number on it.
So that's really nice. Why do you need that? Everybody has their phone. You can just like
I
type
didn't
it
have
in.
my phone on me at
okay.
the time.
All right.
So
She's old school.
Old
She's
school.
old school.
Old school. You can look me up in the phone book.
Yellow Pages
I'm on
.ca.
MySpace on Nexopia. Yeah, that's interesting. I like the way you're looking at that.
I don't know. I'm just interested because I talk to girls about it, but I'm like, wonder how guys feel about this.
Well, the thing, I don't think we have. I don't have much an opinion about it because it's been rare.
Oh, it doesn't
Yeah,
happen
it
to you.
is really
So
rare.
it doesn't happen to you guys a lot.
It's really
It
rare.
happened to me once or twice, but it's. I mean, it was different.
Like you can tell when a woman's pursuing you, but it's so subtle that it's like it makes it really hard to know if we should be acting on it. And it kind of goes back to forming things like the friend zone, where we're like sometimes you're not really sure where you stand with somebody, because sometimes like women are just really like friendly with you, they're very huggy, very like kiss
some
your
people are
cheeks
just
or
kind of
whatever, like that type of
flirtatious,
stuff, which I mean it's fine, it's great, but if you have feelings for somebody that's like that, it can be very confusing.
Yeah.
Right? And so
Yeah. I get that.
yeah, like stuff like that can be kind of tough to manage. I don't know. I would love it if women were more direct with stuff like that.
Well,
It would be great.
What I'm trying to get my friends at least to do is I'm trying to like be like, okay, listen, guys, we don't have to be the way that society tells you that a guy has to come up to you, and if you're pursuing or whatever, it doesn't make you masculine. It doesn't make you, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. It's just you are allowed to do that, and I think you should if you want to. You shouldn't feel like someone's gonna talk about you, or like.
Do you think that there's a fear of rejection too, that you like men, like we feel we get rejected all the time, so it's like
And
it's
not
meh most of the time, like it just
Yeah.
happens. And so like for women, I've noticed the odd time that I've rejected a woman, especially an attractive woman, it's like I remember talking to her about like, have anybody ever said no to you? And she said no, and like
Yeah.
I could tell that it set something off in her brain when I did. Like no, she went nuts. She like it just didn't
Are
know
you
how to
gay?
deal with it.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah,
I think
stuff
'cause,
like that.
Yeah,
like
there's that expectation that guys always want to have sex. Guys always want. It doesn't matter as long as it's got a vagina, they want to fuck. Like there's that toxic, image that's been spread through society, and it's not true. I could go up to a guy and be like, hey, you want to fuck? And they could be like, no. And I wouldn't be able to be like, what's wrong with you? Are you a pussy? Are you blah, blah, blah? Like, that's wrong. It's like they're a human being, and if they don't want to fuck, then they don't want to fuck. Grow up and get over it.
Yeah.
But it's like there's been this for so long. It's like dudes always want to fuck, girls don't want to fuck. And it's like people are so set in what they've been told for all these years that even the thought of breaking away from that, or a man not wanting sex, is like mind blowing. And it's not even just, oh, I'm hurt because I'm rejected. It's like the whole foundation of what they thought men and women were is crumbling around them, and it's devastating.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
just their whole world view on how this was supposed to work is now like done. Yeah. Man, I like talking about this type of stuff.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much for coming.
I guess we're gonna kind of wrap it up here.
Yeah.
But that's it for the Slackline. Thank you very much to Xandria for joining us today.
It was great. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll see everybody next time on the Slackline. We'll let
like
you
to
out
see it again
with some Crooked Spies here. Check them out.